Hello. Welcome to Silver Night Movie Blog. We went and saw the new Star Trek movie. This is the old one, but I don't have the new box, so there you go. Star Trek.
Into Darkness.
Yes. I'll start.
Okay, well, first off, spoilers. There's going to be spoilers.
Huge spoilers. We're going to talk about a lot of things. I think I'll start off, and I will say that I liked this movie a lot. I thought it was really good. I thought that the characters were really well done. I thought that the taking things from the old series and introducing them in new and interesting ways was a good idea. There is one big glaring problem with the movie, and that is towards the end of the film. And it's that they not only took elements, but they almost blatantly copied and just reversed the two characters on the one scene. That was my biggest problem with the movie. Other than that, it almost got everything right until that point. And then when they did that scene, I'm being vague here, but basically they recopied the death scene of Spock from Wrath of Khan and reversed it to being Kirk that is actually dying instead of Spock. And when they did that, I didn't even mind the parallel of the situation, but they copied the lines and almost the camera angles almost exactly. And for me, that was the biggest mistake of this film. It just really felt like, you know, you just wanted to do Wrath of Khan over again with this particular thing. You could have done something new, something interesting, even if you had it be, you know, the same situation with them on either sides of the glass. Don't copy the lines. And then, of course, for me, the point that I was okay with all of that, but then when Zachary Quinto as Spock did the Khan line, it really just kind of threw me for a loop. It was just kind of like, okay, no, this is not in character. This is not something that Spock would do. I thought it should have been, you know, do the reverse. You know, you're already reversing the situation. Do the reverse of the big, you know, Khan. Make it more subtle, you know, just Khan, you know, that kind of thing, where he would just be down and it would just be his, you know, now he's set to his purpose and he's going to go after him, but at the same time it's not the big explosive rage that Kirk has, because Spock wouldn't do that, I don't think. Even this newer, more emotional Spock, I don't see him doing that. Edgy, yes.
He's edgy Spock.
Funky Spock. Break it down. Show him what you got.
Well, overall, I did enjoy the movie as well. It got almost everything right until like the last 20 minutes, as you said. Okay, yeah. There's, as we said, spoilers. The big villain is Khan. But yeah, this movie, the action was good. The funny moments worked for the most part. They had reference, just like the 2009 movie, there was references to the old movies and the old franchise, you know, just as a little shout outs to fans and stuff like that. But yeah, there's with about 20 minutes left, you have Kirk rushing in to the reactor room almost exactly like how Spock had to do, with no time to put on a radiation suit to protect himself. Which makes you wonder, why isn't there someone with a radiation suit on duty at all times, just so that in case something like this should happen?
Just a closet right there, radiation suits when you're right next to the reactor room door. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Just why isn't there someone in a radiation suit on duty at all times, just in case? Anyway, so Kirk sacrifices himself to save the ship. Which, that happens, the ship is saved, and then they almost completely copy the Spock's death scene, as you said. And the thing is, it didn't build up the emotion. I mean, first off, this is only the second time we've seen this Kirk and this Spock. We haven't seen them, you know, throughout a TV show and throughout two movies, but don't rip off Wrath of Khan. The movie should have been called Star Trek II Wrath of J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams clearly wanted to do his own thing or do Wrath of Khan with his spin on it, which you can do that, but Wrath of Khan is one of the best movies ever made. I mean, not just Star Trek. It's one of the best. Not even one of the best science fiction movies ever made. It is one of the best movies. Period.
Yeah, I mean, it is almost perfect storytelling, and
everything has a point. The character, you understand every character's motivation, and they're real. You feel it.
Yeah.
The reason Khan is after Kirk is because he blames Kirk for the death of his wife, which you can argue he is responsible for. There's a valid reason for his wanting revenge. In this version, Khan doesn't have a wife, so just why is he... And he didn't want to go after Kirk, he wanted to go after the Admiral. Admiral Marcus.
Right.
Which, I have to admit, including Carol Marcus was a clever touch. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. I think we should talk primarily now about the villain, which is Khan.
/ Dr. Marcus, or right. Admiral Marcus.
Right. They both...
There's two villains, which... The thing is, Khan really is more the secondary villain.
Yeah. And Khan, for the most part, is, even if he's not necessarily doing good things, he has good motivations.
Yeah, his motivation is pretty... Yeah, his motivation, you completely understand.
Right. Until at the end where he has now basically achieved goal 1, and he's moving on to... Yes. And he's moving on to goal 2, which is the world domination, destroying everything that isn't superior like he is. Of course, for those who don't know, Khan is a member of a race of superhumans that was created in the original continuity. It was in 1999, was when there was this huge clone war or things like that. But
excuse me.
Okay.
The original continuity, which technically should still exist because Khan was so far in the past from the original Star Trek movie. Khan and a whole race of genetically engineered people who are stronger and smarter than your average human. They ended up taking over the Earth, ultimately to be defeated. And Khan was the best of all of them. He was the last regime still standing.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't defeated in 1999. The Botany Bay, the ship that they all got cryogenically frozen in, that got launched in 1999.
Right. And then, of course, in the original show, you have Space Seed, which was the name of the episode, where Khan is reacting... Yes.
Sorry.
Khan is reactivated. He tries to take over the ship of the Enterprise because they find the Botany Bay out and drifting in space.
And
they revive some of his people.
Let's help these people.
Yeah. So, one thing and another, Khan tries to take over the Enterprise. He fails. He's put onto this planet SETI Alpha 5, and they say, we'll come back in a few years to see what's going on, see what this seed, space seed, that we've planted becomes.
And it turns out there was kind of sort of a ecological disaster in the whole planet, which... And this kind of goes back to one of the issues I had with this portrayal of Khan. Not so much, the actor. I thought he did a good job.
Oh, yes.
But there was a... Khan in both Space Seed and in Wrath of Khan, there was a sense of honor and respectability about the guy. I mean, in Space Seed, there is a scene where they flat out... they're talking about what a terrible tyrant he was, but there is an air of respect.
Yeah.
Because Khan did care about his subjects.
Exactly.
He was a respectable, well-loved ruler.
Yeah.
For those under him, he was a ruthless killer to
everybody else.
Everyone else. But, and Ricardo Montalban had this... He gave the character such charisma. I mean, you could see why people would follow him to their death.
Exactly.
There was something wonderful and charismatic about him.
Yeah.
this guy, I didn't see the charisma at all.
Yeah, and the thing is too. Again, I think in both versions, it's what you didn't get to see. In this version, his crew, his group of superhumans, are locked up and frozen in
They never got woken up.
Right, they never got woken up at all. So you didn't get to see him interact with his people. Everybody he's interacting with is, to his mind, an interloper, either a person who
trying to keep his people frozen.
Right, either a person who is actively against him, or at the very least somebody who is inferior. So you don't really get to see him how his dynamic would have been with his own people. I thought that, in both cases, and well, there's other things we'll get to, that's why it was more what you didn't get to see in the original Space Seed, and they tried to cover some of that in Into Darkness, and then there was things that you didn't see in Into Darkness that you do see in that. The biggest problem, though, Ricardo Montalban, perfect. So, alright, I'm good with him. Biggest problem with this newest version is he's very clearly British. Khan is very clearly, at least, maybe Australian or British or something like that. He's white. He's very, you're sure that there's no...
He's in Sherlock.
Right, he's in Sherlock, absolutely. We know...
Moffat! Sorry.
Yes. Thought we said no Moffat hate.
I'm sorry. Doctor Who was on last night.
Yes. Doctor Who, we will make another vlog about that another time, I'm sure. So anyway, but he was, there was no trace of him being Indian. And Khan, as written, is supposed to be an Indian prince.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, with Ricardo Montalban, it was, there's the 60s and everything like that, and he was fantastic and everything, so you go with that, okay.
And then when the movie comes around, you just go with the same actor, that makes sense.
Exactly. But this is 2013.
Exactly.
You're doing a completely different cast, you're doing a completely different scenario, cast an Indian actor. Mm-hmm. Cast an Indian actor. Now, don't misunderstand me. Cumberbatch did a great job.
Yes, he did.
He was fantastic. But for what Khan is supposed to be, and that was what he was trying to say earlier, if you could say, oh, well, it changed because of the continuity, because, Nero in movie 1 came in and, it changed everything. It wouldn't change something that happened in 1999. It would change everything after the point where Kirk was born, and beyond that. It would not change the fact that in 1999, Khan would have been an Indian. Mm-hmm. So...
Unless he's Mexican.
Well, but the point being, that was for me I'm not the huge Trekker. You'll notice I did use the correct term. I am not a huge Trekker. I enjoyed Star Trek. I've seen various episodes. I've not seen all of any series. I have seen all of the movies. That's where mine primarily comes in. I've seen a few episodes, but primarily the movies. But
I'm the Star Trek nerd.
Exactly. It was just kind of, why would you not go with this? I mean, especially now, you could make an argument back in the 60s, it's like, oh, well, there was this thing, this bias and all that kind of thing. There's no bias anymore. Or at least there shouldn't be.
Right.
So, why? That's my question.
And also, back in the 1960s, you rarely saw Indian actors in America. Here, we have a lot of Indian immigrants as very good actors.
Yes.
Cast one.
Yeah,
Why can't you cast one?
There's actually now, even if we couldn't get an American actor who was Indian, you have Bollywood. You have a whole industry that is now completely Indian actors. Get somebody from there, So it did for me. I like I said, I liked what he did with the character. I thought he was fantastic. He was scary when he needed to be, but it was just from a storytelling point of view, it was just kind of a big road bump to me. It was just kind of shook me out of it and made me go, well, wait a minute, why is he not Indian now? Mm.
And getting back to the continuity, this Khan didn't have the loss of his wife. He was going after the Admiral Marcus, which we should probably talk about Marcus at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, in this movie, we have Marcus is the one that found the Botany Bay and Khan and all the
Superhumans.
Yeah, thank you. Not Kirk and the Enterprise.
Right, and that's because when Vulcan blew up, they started looking for other threats in the universe because they figured, well, if this guy is out here in this rogue ship and he can destroy and has this technology that can destroy a planet, then we should make sure that there's not somebody else out hanging around out there. And they found the Botany Bay. Continue.
Yeah. But yeah, so he didn't, have this vendetta with Kirk that obviously exists in Wrath of Khan. So Khan's motivation is trying to jump through all the hoops the Admiral wants him to jump through to get his people back.
I think also he was trying to get hold of the ship. One of the things that the Admiral did was he creates this massive warship, which, like no other ship in the Federation under normal circumstances, is built specifically for war.
Yeah, the ship is a complete, pretty badass design too.
Yeah, and
it is really cool.
I thought that was one thing that they should have made a little more clear in the film. Whether it was actually the intention or not, I'm not sure. But to me, it seemed like his whole plan was to get his people free and get hold of that ship. Because he had helped design the ship, he knew that it was there.
He knew all the specifications of it and everything.
Right. So he thought, this ship is going to be a new power in the universe, and if I have this ship, I can go and conquer as I wish. So Marcus, on the other hand, once he has worked with Khan and everything like that, realizes what a danger he is and decides that he's got to take him out. He's got to make sure that he's, no longer a threat. Well, Khan realizes that Marcus is going to try to take him out, so he decides to strike first, resulting in the destruction of the library in London, which, big shout out to the guy who played Mickey on Doctor Who. What's his name?
Noel Clarke.
There you go. It was great to see him. We were sitting there in the theater, and all of a sudden it's just Mickey! So,
he's so fine.
You had to go there, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You had to. So anyway, but yeah, he blows up this library, which is actually a cover for a research and development location. So that becomes the first strike, and then he sends...
And it causes this emergency meeting of all the highest-ranking officials in Starfleet, and Khan has a massacre.
Exactly. Khan comes... activates this because he knows they will join together in this room at this time for
a meeting.
Because of this terrorist activity. Which, I mean, that in itself is kind of like, well, why wouldn't you... Why would you have this on the top floor of a building, because it's in this high-rise?
In a world when you have ships that can fly.
Right, you have ships that can fly very easily.
With weapons.
With weapons. And then also... And you have this big window right there, so he can see right where you are if he comes up in the ship, which he does. And why would you not lock that down? I know for a fact that in military protocols, they have it that you can... They will pick a site at random. They have like 5 sites or something, and they will pick a site at random. There's sometimes computer algorithms involved. There's sometimes it's just somebody hand picks it, whatever the situation. It almost never is, okay, we're going to meet, if this happens, we will meet in this room at this time, and we will discuss the situation.
Go to the emergency room, everybody.
Yeah, the one where everybody knows where it is, you know? So that's kind of a big flaw.
Also, in the Star Trek universe, why do you need to gather everyone in one room when you have the capability of having communications throughout light years? It's been used so many times.
Yeah, it was primarily a story device just to get everybody in one room and kill people.
It's a trap!
Yes, pretty much.
I almost screamed that in the theater.
Yeah.
It's a trap! Yeah, Khan wants to get revenge on Marcus for, holding his people captive.
Mm-hmm.
And So Khan's motivation, once it's revealed that he's Khan and why he's doing what he's doing, makes all the sense in the world.
Sure. And you're with him until he goes, and it's as with most things nowadays, they achieve their main goal, and then they either
now I am evil.
Yeah, they either have to, just move on from where they are and leave that plan, or they have to take the next step and say, okay, now I have what I want, and now I'm going to, in Khan's case, kill everybody. We are now equal. Now we must become superior.
Okay, and that is another flaw that I noticed. I could be wrong on this, because it's been quite some time since I've seen Space Seed.
Okay.
But I don't remember Khan wanting to kill people he viewed were inferior to him. He wanted to rule them.
Right.
I don't remember him wanting to kill them.
See, the world is a mess, and I just need to rule it. So.
Thank you, Dr. Horrible.
Yes. So, yeah, I'm not sure that he actually wanted to wipe him out. In this, he had a very, again, Doctor Who reference, very much a Dalek kind of sensibility, where, they said, your goal back in the past was to wipe out anybody who you considered to be inferior, which was everybody but the superhumans. I again don't recall that as being his main goal. It was just
again, I could be wrong on that. It's been a long time since I've seen the Space Seed, but I don't remember that.
Yeah, we're the superior race. We are the natural rulers. Therefore, we will rule. We will take over what we need to take over.
Right, and that mindset makes a little more sense than we will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't rule over people who you kill.
Yeah. Kill the whole world to be king of a graveyard. It's not a very good philosophy.
No. It was well established Khan is was genetically engineered.
Right.
He is stronger and smarter than your average human.
Harder, better, stronger, faster.
Yes, whatever. That doesn't mean he's invulnerable, and this guy was doing things that are just... No. When Kirk first finds him, and Kirk wants revenge on Khan for the death of Christopher Pike, which they suddenly had this father-son kind of relationship, which they probably should have spent more time building.
I felt that was okay, because I got from the first film particularly, yeah, if you're just jumping in straight into the second film, it's going to feel a little loose.
Oh, that guy died.
Yeah, but if you've seen the first film, I felt the dynamic worked. I thought that because
it felt a little rushed. It was built a little bit in the first. I would have liked to have seen it a little bit more, though.
Right.
But anyway, so Kirk finds Khan, and Khan surrenders. So Kirk just starts punching him repeatedly. And there was no blood.
Yeah.
And then McCoy takes a blood sample and he analyzes it, and he finds that Khan's blood has remarkable regenerative qualities, which we will get into this, I'm sure. And then for whatever reason, there's a triple! They have, hands down, the most damaging ecological menace ever seen.
And they just have a triple on board for some reason. It's like no, wait.
Why do you have this? Throw this thing out the airlock.
Yeah, this is not a hamster. This is not a rabbit. If you're doing this on a tribble, and you bring this tribble back to life because it is dead at this point, or at least very dormant, then it's going to start reproducing, and then you've got trouble with tribbles all over again. So that it really kind of was like, just do a hamster. I know what you're trying to do. I know you want to bring in the fan service and
that
say,
was a huge triple.
Yeah, but it was like it's like, oh, we can get in a reference here. Rather than testing on rabbits, they test on tribbles. No, because anybody who knows anything about a tribble knows you can't have them on the ship because it will result in an infestation.
They're single-handedly the most ecological damaging creature in the entire Star Trek universe.
Exactly.
Why would you have this on the ship?
So they use the Tribble to find out that it has these regenerative powers, which sets up how they're going to save Kirk in the end of the film.
Right. But yeah, so they have the regenerative magic con blood, which also saved a girl with cancer.
Well, they didn't specify what she had. It was that she was dying. We would assume cancer. Yeah, it was
space cancer.
Well, it could always be some new disease. They change all the time. But yeah, it was something that was going to end her life, and in the beginning,
gives Mickey Smith a blood sample, and it saves him. So
yeah, and it's just the blood straight into their system. Now, a little bit's not going to cause a huge problem, because if you give somebody the wrong blood type in reality, like a transfusion, then it's going to cause a problem. Because that's one of the big problems with, say, for instance, Dracula. They're saying, oh, we're going to give her blood from our veins, the blood of 4 strong men in her veins. Well, yeah, that might have actually killed her more. Because it's bad, it's not the same blood type, which they didn't know with Dracula. Here, it's, usually when they make a serum from someone's blood, if somebody has an antibody that will protect from a virus or whatever, they create a serum. They isolate the antibodies in that person's blood or whatever, and that give them an immunity, and then they create a serum based on that. They do not directly inject blood from patient A into patient B.
Which is all Khan did. He just gave him a blood sample, and then he puts it right into the irregular IV.
Right, and within hours, she's okay.
Yeah, within hours, she's
getting
fine.
better.
It's like, what? Khan never displayed this power before.
Right. Now, again, that may be a case of you didn't get to see that in Space Seed and Wrath of Khan, because in Wrath of Khan, you never had any direct connection between Kirk and Khan. There was never the fist fight between Kirk and Khan. You never really even saw, a physical confrontation other than, him lifting up Chekhov and everything like that. But
William Shatner and Ricardo Montalban were never on screen together.
So and the only way that Khan was really ever hurt, particularly in Wrath of Khan, was in the explosions. So it does make sense that he's going to be tougher and stronger and able to withstand more. Exactly. So yeah, it does make sense. But as he has said, stronger doesn't mean invincible. So I think there was a trickle of blood when he got punched, but he wasn't reacting to it much. It was kind of like a kid coming up and punching you.
Or how about when, toward the end, when Uhura is just blasting him with shot after shot after shot with the phaser, and he's just standing there.
Well, it was supposedly on stun, because at this point, if they killed him, then they wouldn't...
I don't care.
Yeah.
It's still... No.
It was hurting him. It was just not knocking him out like it should have. And that was the problem there. It was that he kept coming.
Strong.
Yeah.
I mean, he took phaser blasts in I think he.
I don't remember if
actually, come to think about it, I don't know if he did or not.
Yeah. But in Space Seed, there was, some physical confrontation, and while they're stronger, they're not necessarily able to, just get pummeled to death and be like, hey, I'm all right, And
then also, in Space Seed, when Khan's been defeated, and they come up with the solution, and they realize they can't just, bring them all back to the Federation, because they don't want these superhumans in regular jails.
Right.
So they come up with the solution of putting them down on this primitive planet where there's no inhabitants, so they wouldn't be hurting anyone. And it'd be a challenge for them, but they could make their own societies. It was a wonderful idea. It really was. And Khan, realizing he had been defeated, he accepts defeat.
Right.
He like, Kirk, I underestimated you. you beat me.
And he realizes...
And he accepts the punishment.
Right. And he realizes that this may be a new beginning for him in Space Seed. He quotes Dante's Inferno, and he says, it's better to reign in hell than to be a servant in heaven. I'm probably misquoting, especially the end of that part.
I believe that's the correct quote.
Okay, but you get the idea. And so he says, I would rather have my own little world, my own little fiefdom, rather than be under the rule of the Federation
or anything like that.
And they say, it'd be interesting to come back and see what happens with this. Well, the show got canceled. So they only made it to 3 seasons, so they never got back to Khan, which they might have done if they had this show last longer. So because of that,
I think it would have been a marvelous island, maybe even a fantasy.
Oh, it could have been. Yeah. The plane. So anyway, it would have been
The Enterprise.
So it was 20 years later in both the film and in the story that they come back and find what they think is SETI Alpha 6, and that it's actually been destroyed. Now, in the original film of Space Seed, Khan takes a wife. From one of the members of the crew, he enchants her, and she realizes...
The ship's historian.
Right, and she realizes that she does love Khan, and he takes her as his wife. So, when we first meet Khan in Space Seed, he does not have a wife. Mm-hmm. So... just like here in Into Darkness, he doesn't have a wife that we know of. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you didn't have the dynamic of revenge that would have been there in Wrath of Khan in Space Seed. You had the situation where, it's now kind of just, I just want to take over. So in Space Seed, because the only ship around is the Enterprise, he tries to take the Enterprise. He fails. In this movie, because, the Enterprise is the inferior ship of the two he's trying to get the big ship. And he also wants revenge on Marcus.
But I would never have bought that this Khan would accept defeat. This is just going back to the characterization overall of Khan. This one just didn't have that sense of
honor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would not have bought for 1 second this Khan telling me something.
Right. Khan in the original series, without the idea of revenge that you have in Wrath of Khan, you could imagine that. But then, primarily in Wrath of Khan, it was because it was Kirk. Had it been someone else, he might have accepted defeat and surrender. But because it was Kirk and he held him responsible for his wife and for the 20 years of his people being on a desert planet, which was not desert originally.
And caused the death of, what was it, about 40 of his people?
At least. Okay, so back to the biggest problem of the whole movie.
The recreation, flat out recreation of the death scene of Spock from Wrath of Khan. I mean, it's basically the entire scene.
Yeah, they redo the entire scene. Everything from Kirk's
beat,
everything from
every moment is just captured.
Yeah, from Scotty calling to Kirk and saying, "Captain, you need to get down here," to engineering. Of course, it's now Spock needs to get down to engineering, and it's almost beat for beat in places line for line. And that's not good. I mean, okay, if you want to mirror that scene, go ahead. And they do change some of the dialogues because it makes sense, for them to have changed it. Mm-hmm. But it's beat for beat, like you said. And then in the situation at the end, Kirk dies, or seems to die. Yeah. And instead of going for internalized emotion, which is probably what Spock would normally do, they wanted the Khan yell. So Spock, does
Spock.
Spock, yeah, does
Vulcan, unemotional, even the modern, more wussy Spock.
Yeah, who at his own mother's death
didn't cry,
didn't have a huge emotional outburst at that point. Later on, he did when he was provoked. But at the moment of her death and everything, he was very
He was Vulcan.
Internalized. He was Vulcan. Exactly. He lets go with a great big Khan, which is
hilarious.
Yeah, it was kind of just like...
It was hilarious.
Yeah, it just broke everything that Spock was, or should be. He would never do that. I thought it, should have been just the internalized, if he said, it should have been because you're already reversing everything, do the opposite. Instead of being Khan, do Khan. Like, he's the one responsible, I'm going to go get him. Not the Kirk thing. Kirk is emotional, and it took that big, exciting moment that may I say may be the finest acting moment in William Shatner's career. Certainly the most iconic. And turned it into a joke almost. Though I don't think they were going for being a joke, we were kind of just going...
I was laughing.
Yeah, he laughed out loud.
I was laughing.
Yeah, hard. It was where I was just kind of just like, really? Did you go there? Did you do that?
Yeah. Spock's death scene in Wrath of Khan is arguably, if not the most iconic scene in Star Trek's history.
Definitely.
Almost 50 years of history. That is the most recognizable scene. Mm-hmm. Scene, not line. Scene.
Right, scene.
So, by mirroring it and just reversing the characters, but having the circumstances for why one of them's dying the exact same,
mm-hmm.
having Khan be a reason for those situations occurring the exact same,
yeah,
you are inviting the audience to compare it to the original.
Right.
You're not going to win.
Yeah.
You are not going to top that scene
No.
in the original.
Yeah.
So why try?
Yeah. It's like going up against, it's like putting gold against brass. The brass may look good on its own. The gold looks great on its own. We put gold and brass together, and they still have the same kind of colored sheen, but the gold's going to win. And that's what you got here. You've got gold and brass, and Into Darkness's version was brass compared to the gold of the original. So
and part of the story arc for Kirk is growing up and learning to take responsibility, which by doing what he does take responsibility for being captain of the Enterprise. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of a problem with when you compare it to the original scene. The original scene was, Kirk growing up, which is kind of the same story, but Kirk never having faced death.
Right.
Which, again, kind of the same. But it's more... The character learns more when it's the death of a beloved friend, not you.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Kirk learns to take responsibility for, those that are under him. Mm-hmm. But in the original, Kirk, for the first time, dealt with loss.
Yeah. And he'd lost all those people, prior to, but it was
so many
never...
red shirts.
Yeah, so many red shirts. But it was never somebody on the main crew from the big...
It was never a friend.
Right.
And in Wrath of Khan, he lost Spock.
And his right arm.
Yeah. In this one, he learns to take responsibility, but at the cost of his life. Which, that's more heroic in a way, but you can't really learn from your death.
Yeah.
You're not going to take as much away from it, because... Especially when he comes back, which I knew they weren't going to kill Kirk.
You can't kill Kirk. And
they tried once. It was a disaster.
Yeah. Generations we shall not speak of which.
You just did.
Darn. So anyway, but yeah, so that's the bad parts of the movie. Now we ripped a lot on the bad parts.
I still got one more.
You got one more?
I got one more thing.
Okay.
Which I still don't know how you didn't see it. But the second Kirk died, I immediately knew what they were going to do, because they made this big deal about Khan's blood having this remarkable regenerative qualities.
Yeah.
I knew immediately. Oh, so they're just going to give Kirk some of Khan's blood. He's gonna be fine.
Yeah, usually I'm pretty good at things, and I mean, for instance, Oblivion. I saw the movie Oblivion with Tom Cruise, and I'm just sitting there going, okay, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, this is what this is, that's what that is, and I was right every time. Most of the time, I'm pretty good at predicting what a film's going to do. But this one, I have to admit, I forgot about his blood. They mentioned it at least 2 times.
Maybe that's why they put in the tribble, to distract you from what McCoy was saying.
Exactly. I was thinking about right. It's like, why the tribble? But yeah, they established in the very beginning of the film that his blood has regenerative properties.
Although at the time we didn't know it was Khan.
Right, we didn't know it was Khan, but we knew it was our bad guy. We knew it was going to be somebody who was going to be a big problem.
Some mysterious dude.
Right. And then once we knew it was Khan, they did it again with the tribble. I have to say, I forgot about it. It was kind of just one of those things. It's like I was involved in the film, and it kind of put it on the shelf and everything, and didn't think about it.
I remember that line standing out as being very odd, because being the far more nerdy and sort of in all forms of Star Trek than you are. I mean, the whole time I'm going, Khan's blood doesn't do that.
Well, we don't know. Again, we don't know that it didn't. In the original situation, the original scenario, it just never got to that point. It never came up.
Then why did 40 of his people die on the planet if they have this magic invincibility blood?
It's one thing if you get destroyed in a natural disaster and you're actually like pummeled by a wave or something like that. But it's another thing.
Jumping around 30 meters and surviving that without any problems.
Yeah. But it's one thing if you get killed by a natural disaster or by exposure, etc., etc. But it's another thing if you've got something internal, which in Kirk's case was radiation, in the girl's case it was space cancer or whatever it was.
That's what we're going with.
Yeah, I guess we'll go with space cancer. So, well, whatever it was, it's one thing to heal from a internal problem. It's another thing to revive after somebody has been broken by a physical disaster, so i.e. a building falling on them or a wave tsunamiing. That's another thing.
And it should be pointed out, all these flaws that we've been ripping on are in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah. It turns out your friend here was only mostly dead. He's still partially alive.
Yeah, so they give Kirk the Khan juice, and he's good.
Khan juice coming to a store near you.
Khan juice. It gives you Khan!
The opening scenario of the film is that Kirk and the Starship Enterprise are going to save this alien race. Now, and the whole problem is that if their ship is seen, that will violate the Prime Directive. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think that the whole idea of saving this race would violate the Prime Directive.
Yes.
I point out, particularly because this is what I know, Spock versus Q, which is not canon. I understand that. Don't attack me, Trekkers. I understand that. But Spock versus Q, the whole thing is that Spock is trying to get Q to, 1, tell Earth that we're in trouble, and then 2, to save Earth from the asteroid that he's now told us is coming, And he says, you got me down here to tell these people and try and save them just so you wouldn't violate your fusty old Prime Directive. So in trying to save them, they're violating the Prime Directive.
Wait. Why would an asteroid hurtling towards Earth violate the Prime Directive?
Because we didn't know about it and it would interfere with our culture. Because Spock versus Q, this is kind of off topic, but he comes back to 1999 or whatever it was, and he warns Earth.
Oh,
so this is prior to the first contact that occurs in the movie's First Contact and everything. Prior to, he comes back and he warns us that this asteroid's going to hit. Well, that asteroid would affect our development. We're a primitive planet by their standards. We have not yet developed the warp drive, and therefore that would affect
Therefore, we're bound by the Prime Directive.
Right.
The Prime Directive would apply to us.
Exactly.
But you are absolutely right.
So
the fact of
going into these to save this people that don't even know how to make fire yet, basically, and trying to save them already violates the Prime Directive, because it may be the will of nature or whatever that they be wiped out. So for them to go in and try to save these people at all would be a violation of the Prime Directive.
Our camera angle's different now. Anyway, but yeah, you're right. The Prime Directive states, which I don't think it's ever stated in the original series, Prime Directive, don't interfere with primitive cultures. Because they did it a lot.
Like every week.
Yeah. But, in particular, it was definitely used a lot more when Next Generation came about. And basically it states, don't interfere with other cultures that haven't discovered warp yet.
Right.
Because you're interfering with that planet's natural development.
Right.
And sometimes that means letting a village or even letting a planet die.
Right.
It sounds harsh, but it's the best way to ensure you don't screw anything up either.
Right. For whatever reason, the Federation seems to believe that once you have developed warp drive, you have reached a point where culturally you are more likely to be ready to integrate into the universe and not
when you achieve warp travel, you're wanting to explore the stars.
Yeah, your scientific abilities have gotten to that point. So we talked a lot about the bad points of the movie. Let's talk about the good points. And the best part particularly is the acting. Bruce Greenwood is playing Christopher Pike again. He was in the first film. He's fantastic in just about anything he does. He's been in The Core, which, while admittedly not a great film, he's great in it. And he's one of these people kind of like Sean Bean who, yeah, most of the time if he's in the movie, he's going to die. He's going to be the one that you care about, and very quickly.
No!
Exactly. So when he dies...
Like a Spock moment?
Oh, yes. So when he dies in the movie, it's a real tragedy, and especially if you've seen the first film. Like he said before, if you're coming into this new, it's kind of just like, oh, that guy died that he really cared about.
Not that guy!
Exactly. So, yeah, but if you've seen the first film, and if you are familiar with the character at all from the original series, you feel a little bit more for that. Zachary Quinto as Spock, great again, except for the Khan moment. Chris Pine as Captain Kirk, great. Really enjoyed watching them. They're really funny and everything. Have to say though, Bones, Carl Urban as Bones is just perfect, and I felt even more in this film than the previous one. He nailed it in the first film. I thought he
really captured the essence of Bones in this one.
with the dialogue and everything. He was just well written and well portrayed by Carl Urban there. I thought he was just fantastic. Simon Pegg, hilarious.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect as Scott.
Yeah. I love when he was running down the hallway and he screams in the communicator, "I'm running." It was...
I'm working on it!
It was just... I don't know why that line should not be as funny as it was, but it just was.
Because it's Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Overall, I have really no complaints about the acting, except for Khan not having the leadership that you really saw in the Space Seed and Wrath of Khan. You didn't see the charisma, the man that
everybody else would want to follow.
Yeah, exactly. you didn't see that. But that's not on the actor. That's more on the writing.
Right, and again, what you don't have time to show, you know, and so I actually hope that, you know, if this goes off into I don't think they should do it in a 3, but if they do go off into a 4th film, maybe bring Khan back, because he's not dead at the end. He's just in cryo again. So maybe somebody breaks him out and wants him to take over the world or whatever. I don't know.
But yeah, so my issues with the portrayal of Khan was really more in the writing, not the actual acting, because this guy was scary. This guy was very, very intimidating. They focused more on the warrior of that Khan was,
right.
not the leader. But the action sequences I thought were great. I mean, at one point, Kirk and Khan shoot themselves out of an airlock hole towards the dreadnought, and that scene is just intense. And it's awesome.
Oh yeah, you're really, you know, rooting for.
I mean,
it.
yeah, we both know they're both gonna make it.
Yeah. But at the same time, are they going to make it in one piece? That's the question, you know.
And Scotty dealing with the security guard was funny.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, overall I have no problems with the acting. Action I thought was great. I love that J.J. Abrams got the memo about the stupid lens flares. Because I mean, while they were still very prevalent, not nearly as much. I am scared though for people who see this in IMAX 3D, the retinas will be fused.
If there were 120 lens flares, which I'm way underestimating, in the first Star Trek film, there were like maybe 20 in this one. It was there, but it wasn't, you know,
they were still they were still noticeable.
Oh sure,
but.
But he feels that brings the camera alive and that it gives this air of the future. So,
but during the big battle sequence when the ship is in desperate need of power, I'm like, turn down the lights.
So
you have half the ship's power. Go into the damn lighting system. Turn that down, and you might be able to fire your phasers. Exactly. But overall. Get on a nice letter grade, what would you say this movie is?
I would give it a B+. I would say that it got everything right except for the kind of the big question. It's like, if it were a test, you got everything right but the essay question, you know? And because the essay question was like the most important thing in the film,
that was
you
worth
got
like
that wrong.
10% of the test.
Exactly. That essay question was 10% of your quiz, and because of that,
failed.
Boom, you've automatically got a B. So everything.
That's a really good analogy, actually.
Thank you. Yeah, everything was great in the movie until you got to the essay question, where it's like this moment that is supposed to be really integral and really heartfelt, and it became almost laughable and just no.
Yeah.
So B+.
I would say I would give the movie a B. More also due to my slight issues with how overall Khan was portrayed, but mostly due to just flat out ripping off. I'm sorry, paying homage to.
Yes. It's not a ripoff, it's an homage.
Right. Ripping off Spock's death scene. I mean, it's beat for beat, and the Khan scream out of Spock is just completely out of character, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, and I have to say, I mean, no offense to Zachary Quinto, great actor, does Spock perfectly 90% of the time.
This
but
is that 10%.
This is that 10%. This is that moment where it was just kind of, no, you shouldn't have done that. And that's not Zachary Quinto's fault, that's the writer's fault. He's just doing what he's told. So, there you are.
Yeah, so overall I would say definitely a good movie. It's definitely not among the worst Star Trek films.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No, it will be in my collection once it comes on DVD.
But, yeah, I would definitely say it's definitely worth a watch. I mean, if you liked the first rebooted Star Trek movie, you'll like this one. So yeah, I would say it's a a B. It's the biggest problem with a lot of Star Trek films I've noticed, they all try to match the intelligence of Wrath of Khan.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't understand what made Wrath of Khan such a great film.
Right.
The yelling Khan, there's nothing inherently wrong with that line.
No, there's nothing wrong with it.
It's in context.
Right.
In Wrath of Khan, it's all this anger and frustration that has been building throughout the entire movie.
Exactly.
Released in that one moment from Kirk. In this one, it's coming from the last hour from Spock's perspective.
Really, not even the last hour. I mean, maybe the last hour in their timeline, but in the in the film, it's like the last 15 minutes, because only in like the last 15 minutes before that did Khan really become an enemy.
Which, I mean,
to them specifically.
Yeah, because for the moment, Khan. Let's just say it, Khan's the secondary villain in this.
Right. Khan is the secondary villain.
Yeah, Admiral Marcus, who was just paranoid, twirling mustache, evil guy. There was nothing that memorable about him.
Yeah. So, ultimately, Kirk is external, and his emotions just flow out, and that's why you would have the big Khan moment, whereas with Spock, he's internal, and he internalizes everything, so for him it would have been more of just a Khan! Next thing, go get him.
Right, because, repressed emotions is a good thing.
Oh, that's how I handle everything.
Your stupid minds! Stupid! Stupid!
Was I the only one who was kind of hoping that when Sulu took the cabin scene for the first time, he'd sit down and just look around and just go, "Oh my."